How's it going? My name is Spencer, and welcome to Chats with Spencer, where I like to ask my guests fun and unique questions so you and I can get to know them a little bit better. My guest today is a professional rock climber that started climbing at the age of 8, and she became a professional climber at 14. From Scottsdale, Arizona, Sarah Blair Coyle. Welcome, Sarah.
Hey Spencer, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So happy to have you here today. So, for anybody unaware, Sarah had a pretty cool climbing origin story. So she was 8 years old. She was at an outdoor mall with her mom and dad, and there was a climbing wall there. And that's kind of just like how she fell in love with it. And she kept on asking to go back. And by chance, shortly afterwards, she there was an article in the newspaper about a climbing gym, and the rest is kind of history. She joined the team, and that's that. So it's pretty interesting just to think about how things could have been so much different. Do you ever imagine what do you think you would have found climbing anyway? Like, I don't know.
That's a good question. I don't know if I would have because when I started climbing, it's not like it was incredibly popular. Now, pretty much everyone you meet has probably tried climbing at the gym, but back then it was just way less common. My dad's best friend in college was actually a climber, so maybe that would have been like the avenue that it happened through instead, somehow that way. But I mean, everything works out how it's supposed to, and it certainly did in this situation.
But can you just tell us maybe a little bit about growing up in Scottsdale? What kind of kid you were outside of climbing? Just and maybe if there's a story that kind of like encapsulated what kind of kid you were, Sarah.
Yeah, so growing up in Scottsdale was just magical for me. First of all, anyone who's been to Scottsdale, like it's a very nice town. It's very resorty, but so you're just kind of surrounded by just like nice people and nice things in general, which is cool because you have that like introduction to the world. But also, I lived in North Scottsdale, and when we moved into our family home when I was 4 years old, I think there were like three other houses in the neighborhood, and so I got to spend a lot of time just kind of like romping around in the desert by our house and hiking up the mountains. And one of our really good family friends actually, and he's kind of like my uncle slash dad now, his name is Brad. He lived a little bit further north of us, even in Cape Creek. So we got to spend some time out there and like that nature doing things. And a lot of my kind of like favorite memories from when I was a little kid are really just like exploring like the area within like 10 miles of the house. And something that I remember in particular is we went to, I think it was Game and Fish, or it could have been one of the like wildlife rescue groups, but they had kind of like an exhibition. And we got to go and I got to like hold some birds. And there's like a picture of me with like a huge snake around my neck. And it was just like I grew up doing things like that when I was younger. And for me, it was just like so common. Like you see the bobcats in the backyard, you know, like you see javelinas running in front of the car at night. And it wasn't until I was older that I was like, oh, not everyone like had these experiences. So yeah, I'm so grateful for basically just where I grew up, like in general. I love the area and I got to see so many cool things.
So, do you think that's kind of like why you've stuck to Scottsdale? Because obviously, like a lot of climbers, they either maybe like go to Salt Lake
Mm-hmm.
or somewhere in Colorado to train, right? Just because I guess there are a lot more facilities out there. But I've noticed, you're still based in Scottsdale. Is that? Do you think that your love of the outdoors and just your fond memories just like drew you to just like staying there?
I think so too. And I think for me, I've always had like such a strong base of like wanting to be near my family. My mom and I lived together in Scottsdale, and just all of my kind of extended family and all of my friends who I'd consider family are, in Scottsdale and the surrounding areas. So it's been hard for me to leave. Also, the weather, I like being warm. So it's hard for me to be excited on a cold place. To be fair, I've never been in somewhere else long enough to probably decide if I like it or not. But I don't know. It's just like, right now I'm back and forth between Salt Lake and Scottsdale for training. And I'm in Salt Lake to train and I'm really enjoying that experience. But Scottsdale's home. Every time I come home, it feels right. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Sounds good. I've been listening to a lot of your previous interviews, and you're just talking about how hot it is and how much you enjoy
Yeah.
it. And I'm from Canada, Toronto, so it's like we have our 4 seasons. It's pretty cold right
Mhm.
now, but when you say it's like 130, 140, I'm just like I would die. And you're like that's perfect. What are some things, Sarah, that you enjoy outside of climbing? So I know your schedule is like 3 days on, 1 day off. So what are you usually doing on your days off, and what do you enjoy doing?
Oof. On my days off, I do a lot of nothing most of the time. I'm pretty tired, but things that I really like to do. So this goes back to like Arizona swings and the Arizona things. In the summer, we have a pretty cool rope swing I like to go to. It's about 30 minutes from where I live. So that's like a fun off day activity. I'm also a really big binge watcher. I'm a big fan of Ozark. Right now, I'm hooked on Designated Survivor, and I'm making my way through those seasons. I like to read as well, and I don't know. I just kind of like to walk around town, like go to Old Town Scottsdale or Kierland and Scottsdale Quarter, and I don't know, stop in somewhere and get like an iced tea or a dessert, and I don't know, just kind of walk around. And our weather is so good, 99% of the time, and even when it's really hot, there's so much air conditioning in between the hot walks that you can jump into that. You can always be outside somehow, even if you're in the city. So I like that a lot.
So I know you're a big fan of the Incubus song Drive. Do you remember the first time you heard that song and like what kind of drew you to it?
Yeah, I think I probably first heard that song, I want to say when I was 10 or so. And I think I was just so into like motivational things at the time, like motivational quotes, motivational songs, anything. So that's kind of what, I don't know, led me towards it. And it's just always like stuck in my head that it's such a good classic song. And, for me, it just motivates me.
And just on a related note, is there any band or artist you think people should check out? And it doesn't have to be super obscure, but just something you would recommend to people.
Ooh, that's a good question. I really like Justin Stone. He's from Columbus, Ohio, and I've actually had the pleasure of meeting him in person on a handful of occasions. He's a super nice guy and just like an independent rapper, basically. And yeah, I'm a big fan of him and his work and just kind of who he is as a person. So if you haven't listened to Justin, I would definitely recommend checking him out.
This is probably one of my favorite questions to ask because I always get an interesting answer for this. But do you remember the first album you ever bought?
Okay. I don't remember the first album I personally bought, but when I was four for my birthday, I wanted, oh God, what's the name of the album? It's from The Offspring. It's whatever album Pretty Fly for a White Guy is on.
Okay.
And that was the first album anyone bought me, which was pretty funny. That was my favorite song when I was 4 years old.
That is an interesting answer for a 4-year-old. So, yeah, I swear, everyone's answers are hilarious. It just...
Yeah.
So this is kind of a different spin on a question, but if you could teach anyone to climb, who would it be?
Oh, if I could teach anyone to climb. That's a good question. I would probably say, I don't know. I guess one of the Kardashians. I would love to meet one of them. So it'd be fun to teach them how to climb.
All right. And obviously you seem like such a positive person, and that's great. But Sierra, are there things in the world that annoy you? That could be like the smallest thing. It doesn't have to be a big world issue, but just something that annoys you.
Something that annoys me. I think it's anytime anyone imposes their beliefs or views on anyone else. I'm a big believer that like if you're not negatively impacting me, like it doesn't concern me. And that's just kind of how I feel about most things. So I'm not a big fan of people imposing their views on others.
There's this one story I heard on one of your interviews once again, and I think it was along the lines like you were training in Slovenia, and then you had a finger injury, and it, like you heard the pop.
Yeah.
And you just like kept on going. You're like, and it was better 6 months later. Are you like that kind of person who kind of, in the sense of like injuries, you'll kind of like fight through them, or did it just honestly not feel too bad at the time?
I'll just fight through them. I think with that one, I thought I maybe pulled my A2. But it's kind of the thing for me, like if I can climb on it and I'm not like dying, I'm not going to do anything about it. Like if I have like a chunk of time where it's like really bothering me, I'll like go to my doctor and get some PRP injections and fix it. But kind of a long time ago, I sprained my ankle at climbing, and I was sitting in the bathtub later that night. I had my ankle out of the tub, and it was like just throbbing, probably because I was sitting in the bathtub and like all the blood's pumping. But I was like Googling, I was like, when to go to the hospital for like your sprained ankle or broken ankle. And I read something and it was like, if you can walk on it at all, like don't go in. And I was like, okay, so I kind of apply that logic to most of my injuries. I'm like, if I can climb on it at all, it's going to be fine. And it's basically worked. Like there's been some stuff that I've climbed on and it wasn't at like full use. But I got it fixed when I could get it fixed. But I think at this point, I'm also smart enough that if something was going to be like a very bad injury, I would know when to pull the plug on it. But yeah, I generally lean towards fight through it, and you'll be okay.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm definitely one of those people who's like, I'll just tape it up and we'll
Yeah,
see what
yeah.
happens. Especially when you're in the middle of a session, you're not gonna stop, right?
No, I mean, yeah, it's you can tape anything up. Like I've climbed with like ice packs taped to me. Like it's fine, you can get through it. It's not a big deal.
All right, so obviously climbing has brought you many places around the
Mhm.
world. What's the best place do you think climbing has brought you so far?
I would say definitely Iceland. So it's my favorite country ever, and the first time I went there was actually just for like vacation after a World Cup, and I wasn't gonna climb that trip, but towards the end I went to the gym because if I don't climb for like more than 2 days, I just need it, you know.
Mhm.
And they were like, "Yeah, we've got some good outdoor climbing here," and I was like, "Cool." And 3 years later, I made a trip back for outdoor climbing, and it was just one of the coolest trips ever. I don't take a lot of outdoor climbing trips, so it was kind of like a treat for me to just be in that headspace. And the landscape's beautiful, the climbing's great, the people are great, and yeah, we just had like an overall awesome time. And not many people can say they took a 2-week bouldering trip to Iceland, so I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, no, I've heard really good things, and I was planning to go this year, but obviously
Oh,
stuff
well,
stuff happened, as we know.
when you go, you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. All right, so if you could visit any time period, Sarah, which one would it be, and why?
I always wanted to visit the 50s just because it seemed kind of like a time of like prosperity and fun. But as I'm saying this, I also think maybe the Roaring 20s would be cool.
Okay.
Something Great Gatsby style would be fun to experience.
So we're going to switch pace a little bit. Just these are like shorter questions with less elaboration, but if you want to elaborate, feel free. All right.
Sounds good.
So, what's your favorite sports team, Sarah?
Arizona Coyotes.
I think I know the answer to this one, but cats or dogs?
I like both, but I
Okay.
have only owned cats.
Okay. Spring or fall?
Spring.
Skittles or M&Ms?
M&Ms.
One of your favorite movies from this year?
Hmm. The Invisible Man. I think that's the name of it.
Adventurous or relaxing vacation?
Relaxing vacation.
What's your go-to snack at a convenience store?
I usually buy bananas at the convenience store.
Okay. What was your favorite show as a child growing up?
Rocket Power.
Okay. Okay, so this question is, well, to give a bit of background, Sierra is sponsored by her favorite restaurant, which is kind of like insane. I think that's like everybody's dream. So, Kale and Clover, I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
what's your favorite thing to eat there?
The cauliflower wings. They are legendary, and basically anyone who's ever been to Kale and Clover eats there regularly. Like you talk to them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, the cauliflower wings." So if anyone goes to Kale and Clover, you have to order the cauliflower wings. It's basically a requirement to eat there.
Okay, Kale and Clover is only based in Scottsdale, correct?
Yes, unfortunately, only in Scottsdale, and they've been closed since March because of everything. Which,
Oh, jeez.
yeah, it's been hard on me. It's been very hard.
What's your favorite climb that you have done?
My favorite climb that I've done is probably Twister at Pre-Straw. It's a V6,
Okay.
but I don't know. It just took me like forever to do it for some reason. And it also
Hmm.
had the same name as my cat at the time, so that was kind of cute. But it's just a good boulder.
Yeah.
I like it.
Favorite climbing move?
Favorite climbing move is probably like, I don't think it has a name, but when you're on slab, like balancing on a volume and you have to like basically just like move your hip to like get situated in the
Hmm.
position for the next move. That'd be kind of my favorite climbing move.
All right. What is your favorite climbing training exercise?
On the wall or off the wall?
We'll say off the wall.
Okay. Favorite climbing training exercise off the wall is any kind of, pull-ups, weighted pull-ups, wide pull-ups,
Mhm.
close, just any variation of those.
And the other side of that, what's your least favorite? So the exercise you're like, oh god, I hate doing these, but you know they're good for you.
Oh man, my least favorite. I've been doing like a lot of leg exercises lately, and I don't even know the
Okay.
names of half of them. But anything where I have to like squat pretty deep is like it's very hard on
Mm.
my soul. So yeah, any squats, not a fan of.
Do you remember your first pair of climbing shoes?
I want to say I do. I think they were Boreal. They're like these red shoes, and they were in kid sizes. I don't think I had like adult size shoes yet,
Hmm.
but yeah, I remember them. I think we like bought them off of someone else who'd outgrown them or something.
Okay. Would you rather add one more reps to your one arm pull up or 5 seconds to your front lever?
Uh, I don't think I could do either. So
Which one would you rather do then?
I think it would be more valuable to me to be able to do like a one arm pull up. So probably that.
That's fair. Uh, what song do you think best describes your climbing style?
Ooh, my climbing style. I'm trying to think of like a dainty song. Um, I don't know. There's this really good song. It's called "I'm God" by Clams Casino. I'll take that one for my climbing
Okay,
style.
that's
Just the
fair.
vibe of it, not necessarily the words. The vibe, though.
All right. And this might be a tough question, but can you finish this quote for me, Sarah?
Mhm.
Like, this is you're in a cult, blank, blank, blank.
Wait. Okay, you're in a cult. Blank, blank, blank. So
Three
I
blanks.
three blanks. Wait, is it? You're in a cult. Call your dad.
Thank you. All right, that's
Yeah.
my segue to my favorite murder. So,
Yes.
I definitely have listened to quite a bit of it. I
Hmm.
wouldn't say I'm like a hardcore fan. When I first got into it, oh my god, I was like listening to it 24/7. But just
Yeah.
more recently, I've slowed down a bit. But have you always been kind of interested in true crime and that kind of thing? I know that in one of your interviews before, you said something along the lines of you were thinking maybe like forensic anthropology, but you're like, I don't know if I could, like
Yeah.
handle that, which I agree with
Yeah.
totally. But
Yeah. I've always been interested in true crime. So when I was probably like 7 or 8, I would watch Forensic Files and
mhm.
just like any crime shows. Basically, they totally gave me nightmares, but I still watch them. And I would ask my mom to buy me like crime books.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'd read them and learned a lot of horrifying things. And so I wanted to be a forensic scientist for a while. And then as I got older, I was like, I don't think being around like all of these terrible things all the
Mhm.
time is going to be good for you mentally. But then my friend who actually recommended My Favorite Murder to me, I was like, she'd been having a lot of like really bad anxiety and depression at the time. And she was like, this is so great. And in
Mhm.
my head, I was like, I'd never listened. And I was like, oh, I was like, this seems like it could be pretty heavy. Like if you're already
Mhm.
personally experiencing a lot of heavy
Mhm.
things. But we listened to an episode and I was like, I mean, not that it's not heavy, but it's so good and does, such justice to the victims, I think, as much as it can, and is,
Yes.
I mean, it's just a great show. So yeah, I've always been interested in it, and very entertained by My Favorite Murder.
Yeah, it is heavy, like you said, but at the same time, Georgia and Kieran just kind of bring a lightness to it, and like, yeah, they're still respectful, but at the same time, they're still making it entertaining to listen
Yeah.
to. So that's great. All right, so I know you travel with your mom, and she's in your life a lot, and that's awesome.
Mhm.
That's great that you have such a great relationship with your mom. So, could you describe your mom in 5 words for us?
Let's see. Nice, fun, caring, adventurous, and hardworking. Hardworking, I
Okay,
guess, is 2 words, but we'll count it as one.
that's okay. And how do you think your mom would describe you, Sarah?
Ooh, how would she describe me? Do you want me to ask her? She's sitting right across from me.
It's up to you. It's either maybe you can say what you think she would say, and then you can ask. I don't know. It's up to you.
Okay, hang on, let's ask her. Mom, 5 words to describe me. I'll just repeat them back.
Um, Smart,
Smart,
kind,
kind,
funny, empathetic,
empathetic,
and motivated.
motivated.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Sarah. So something great what I learned about you is just that you enjoy reading so much.
Yes.
And I think one of your interviews you talked about like how excited you were when you like first got your library card, and like I
Oh
think
my
that's like
gosh.
so great. Like a library, they're so underrated, especially in this
Mhm.
day and age, right? Where
Yeah.
everyone's just tied to their phone or they don't even read books anymore. So
Yeah.
where did this love of reading kind of start from?
I don't know. I guess I just always liked reading. I just remember being in school. I've also just been a fast reader. I don't know why. I'm just built that way. So when we'd like be reading in class, I'd always like read ahead and then I'd start reading my own book or whatever, or just like get done with assignments early. I always had like a book in my desk I'd read. So yeah, I just think it was something I like grew towards, and I just love getting involved in stories and just kind of escaping into them.
Do you have any books that stand out to you? I know that you said you read romance,
Oh yeah.
mystery, but you're not a huge nonfiction fan, though.
No, I mean, I guess I've read a couple of nonfiction books. I have Karen and George's book, and then
Mhm.
some other ones by like people that I'm interested in. But yeah, I
Okay.
wouldn't lean towards nonfiction. I think I like to escape in the fantasy of reading.
Okay. Any recommendations? Just say top three romance or top three mystery novels that you
Yeah.
think people should check out.
Okay, I really like John Grisham, so
Okay.
I would definitely recommend reading. I think Camino Island was a favorite of mine from John Grisham. I'm trying to think any other mystery. Okay, I also, if you're like into the lighthearted mysteries, there's this book series. It's called The Cat in the Stacks, and this is like all of my dreams in one. It's like he's kind of like a librarian in,
Mm-hmm.
where is it? In Savannah, Georgia, I think. But
Okay.
he deals with like the old books and manuscripts at the college or whatever. And then he has this Maine Coon cat named Diesel. And then he ends up like solving mysteries. I don't know. It's just like really cute. It's like this cool town and then a cat and a
Mm-hmm.
librarian. So it's all of my favorite things. And then I guess if we're doing like romance, anything by Debbie Maycomb, where I'm a big fan of. I couldn't choose a favorite of her books. I like all of them. They're very sweet and fun to read.
So obviously the Olympics are coming up, and climbing's going to be first. It's going to be the first year
Mm-hmm.
that climbing's in it. So obviously climbing's going to probably explode in the next few years. Just
Yep.
being brought to that stage. So where would you like to see climbing go in the next few years, Sierra?
I mean, I would just like to see climbing ultimately get bigger and bigger. It's so cool to see so many new people in the sport. For me personally, it's changed my life in so many positive ways that I can only hope that people come to the sport and that some of them have that same experience. So yeah, I'm just excited to see what happens. I think, I mean, for athletes, the more money that's brought into the sport in general, it's good for
Mhm.
us. But yeah, it's going to be cool to see what happens.
As a pro climber, I want your words to those people out there who are maybe just like on the fence about trying climbing. Like I only
Hmm.
discovered climbing maybe a year ago, but I love
Yeah,
it. It's like such a great sport. It's an
yeah.
amazing pastime. But what would you say to people who are just kind of like, I don't have the upper body strength to do it.
Yeah.
I'm scared. I'm afraid of heights. Da da da. What would you say to them to
Yeah.
get them to start climbing?
Okay, so if you don't think you have enough upper body strength to climb, I couldn't do a pull up until I'd been climbing for probably about a year or two. Um, and I'm a lot stronger now, but categorically, I've been like much weaker than my competitors if we're just doing it strength wise. So it's not really all about strength. Technique is a huge factor in it. It's just great, like fun, full body exercise for if someone's just looking for exercise. It's a good way to like get a good workout while not like feeling like you're just grinding it out the entire time. If you're afraid of heights, you don't have to go any higher than you want to. That's what I tell people. You can also, like, if you want to sport climb, you can be on the ropes, or if you want to boulder and just keep it low. Like really, you don't have to do anything you're uncomfortable with. And I also think it's important to tell people climbing is very safe when you're following the proper safety precautions. So I like to remind everyone of that. There's risk in anything, but follow the right precautions and you're generally going to be okay.
So what's one thing you'd like to do or achieve in your lifetime?
Ooh, one thing I'd like to do or achieve in my lifetime. I feel like there are so many. Um, my one like nerdy goal that comes off right now is I bought a condo in
Mm-hmm.
April, and I'd really like to pay off my mortgage. I always wanted to buy a house in cash, and
Okay.
it ended up being that I could make like a larger down payment than normal, which was good. But that's
Mm-hmm.
always just been something that I'm like, I just want to pay. I want to pay the house off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's fair. What are some words of wisdom you try to live your life by, Sierra?
Words of wisdom I try and live my life by. Just kind of the thing of like do unto others as you wish they would do unto you. Like I just try and be a good person basically. And but I also try and stand my ground and stand up for myself. So that's what I live by. Like if I'm being a good person, doing the right things, being honest and truthful, I'll stand by that. And generally that leads me to be around people who are also going to have those same values.
So one last thing, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
You did something kind of interesting during this whole COVID pandemic. I heard
Mm-hmm.
you got married,
Oh
and
yes.
like out of all the things that happened during a pandemic, you got married, and love just kind of comes out of the thin air sometimes, right? And
Hmm.
it's kind of crazy that way. But if anyone doesn't know, Sarah's actually not married. It was just this this thing where someone asked and assumed that she had a husband, and it kind of snowballed from there. But she's
Yep.
been playing along with it and making it a joke along the way. But just kind of like to go along with that. I always find it funny just when people assume things about you. So
Yeah.
uh, when I'm in teaching, and my students always
Hmm.
assume I have kids. They're like, "How are your kids?" I'm just like, I don't have kids. Well,
Yeah.
like, that kind of
You're
thing.
like, why do you
But
think I have kids?
yeah, exactly. They must
Yeah.
think all adults have kids or something. But
Yeah.
with you, what are some of the funny assumptions people have about you? I know you mentioned that people always think you run or do yoga, and
Oh
obviously you have a
yeah.
husband thing. So, what are
Yeah.
some funny things that have come up?
Um, Other like funny things people have assumed about me. Man, it is just like so. A lot of people assume that I'm like vegetarian or vegan. Um,
Okay.
I mean, I try. Being vegetarian or vegan does not necessarily mean you eat a lot of vegetables, but that's like the only correlation I can make between people. Because I like
Mhm.
post things with lots of veggies, but I'm like, man, I eat like so many burgers, it's out of control. So I don't know where you're getting this from. Um, some of the other funny things will be like, and I guess these aren't assumptions other than just people being wrong. And sometimes I'll read
Yes.
comments online where people talk about like my results or how many times I made finals at a certain level or
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm.
And I'm like, you're just wrong. I'm like, have you like checked the internet for the results? I'm like, this isn't even you. I'm like, you could find out the answer to this.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I'm trying to, Mom, are there any other funny things people assume about me?
Well, that you're married.
Oh yeah, other than the married one.
Yeah, the results, that you're super wealthy. Um, what else? That your parents pay for everything for you.
Oh yeah, for a long time, and I don't know if it's changed now, but people thought that my parents like paid for everything.
Pay for your rock gym.
Like paid for my home climbing gym and just like all of my travel and stuff, and they didn't. So
yeah, travel too.
that was just innocent. I think people like sometimes still assume it now, or like when I bought my house, people thought my parents bought my house for me. I was like, no,
And
it
in
was
fact,
me.
you paid for me to travel with you.
Oh yeah, and I also my husband, I paid for my mom to like travel with me and everything, which is I'm excited that I can do that because my mom supported me so
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
throughout my life. But yeah, that's a lot of assumptions. I mean, I just see it with like so many just other climbers too. Or I remember, I think people too. I don't know what they like. I remember seeing these comments a while ago where people are like comparing me to like, because I'd already graduated college, so climbing is my
Hmm.
full time job, and people who were beating me that were still in school and saying like, oh well, I would expect Sierra to be a lot better since she doesn't have to go to school or anything anymore. And I'm like, I work as hard as I can and I train as hard as I can. Like I do my best. It's not just because you necessarily have more time to train than someone or like more or less distractions like doesn't always mean anything. Just things shake out how they shake out.
Are there any like stories where someone meets you in person and they're like, "Oh, I thought you were more X, Y, or Z," kind of thing?
Yeah, that's like my new favorite thing is I always ask my friends once or like people that have become my friends recently. I'll ask them.
Hmm.
I'll be like, before you knew me, like what's an assumption that you had about
Hmm.
me or like how has something changed? And I guess the big thing is people, which this kind of makes me proud, is that people say I'm funnier than they thought I was, which I think that's
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 good.
nice. I'm like, that's a good
Yeah.
compliment to hear. But yeah, I had a couple of years ago, I had some people I newly met, friends or whatever, and they were like, yeah, we didn't realize you worked as hard as you do. We like thought you just
Oh,
didn't like
jeez.
really train. And I was like, well, I'm glad I changed your mind.
You're like, thank you.
It was really funny. They're
Yeah.
really nice, and this
Mhm.
is just they're also they're from a different country, so this is just a little bit
Oh
of
no,
like
that's
how they
fair.
talk about things. But
All
yeah, it made me laugh.
right, Sierra. Can you just like tell us where we can find you on social media and anywhere else?
Yeah, pretty easy to find. Instagram, Twitter. My handle is Sierra Blair Coyle. No E at the end of Coyle because my name is too long. Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Sierra Blair Coyle. My website, sierrabc.com. I'm pretty easy to find on the internet.
Awesome. So obviously, assuming COVID fixes itself sooner than later, do you have
Yeah.
anything coming up? I assume once comps start happening again, that's what your focus is going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So in theory, we have a competition coming up mid-March where the U.S. team is selected. So that's kind of what I'm
Okay.
training for. Yeah, so that would really be my thing. Other than that, my birthday's at the end of January, so that's my next exciting thing that's not a training thing.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on on the channel. It was great interviewing you and learning more about you. Definitely some cool answers,
Yeah,
which I
thank you
think
so
everyone's
much.
going to be.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, this
no
was an
problem.
awesome interview. So much fun.
Thanks. That's my goal. I just want to make it different. I know it can be boring for people
Hmm.
like yourself who get interviewed and then you're always getting the same questions over and over again. You almost have your like cookie cutter answer
Oh
without
yeah,
thinking kind of thing, right?
yeah.
So, all right. Well, everyone, thank you for watching. Please follow Sarah on social media. Always great content on there. Please subscribe for more interesting videos. New videos out every Tuesday and Friday. Please take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next video. Bye.